Coming up on Market to Market. Old Man Winter arrives a day or two early as a major blizzard blows across the nation. Experts say Washington's failure to enact a farm bill could push milk prices above $6 per gallon. And like other farmers and ranchers, Christmas tree growers feel the monetary impact of drought. Those stories and market analysis with Sue Martin next.
Funding for Market to Market is provided by DuPont Pioneer, working with growers to match the right product to the right acre. Science with service, delivering success. This is the Friday, December 21 edition of Market to Market, the weekly journal of rural America.
Hello, I'm Mike Pearson. House Republicans handed their leader a stunning tactical defeat Thursday night. Consequently, hopes plunged for a compromise, averting sweeping tax increases and spending cuts. House Speaker John Boehner presented what he called Plan B in hopes of averting the so-called fiscal cliff. But Boehner was forced to cancel the vote Thursday night when it became clear he lacked the votes to pass it. President Obama met with Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid on Friday. Shortly after the meeting, the president expressed frustration with House Republicans and optimism that a deal can be reached. But in the end, nothing was decided, and lawmakers headed for their Christmas break. Even less certain are prospects for federal farm programs. While large and complex, farm bills typically enjoy bipartisan support. But not this time. And as the clock ticks down to the fiscal cliff, some are concerned that Washington's failure to enact a farm bill could push milk prices above $6 per gallon.
As the White House and Congress struggle to avert the fiscal cliff, dairy producers are concerned that the compromise, or lack thereof, could have a dramatic impact on milk prices. Legislation authorizing federal agricultural programs expired at the end of September. If Congress doesn't pass a new farm bill by January 1st or extend key aspects of existing law, provisions kick in that could push milk prices above $6 per gallon. Most federal subsidy programs extend throughout the 2012 crop year. But if a new farm bill isn't enacted by January, the Agriculture Department will be forced to end its current dairy price support program and revert to the 1949 Farm Bill. Why 1949? Because that was the last time Congress authorized federal farm programs on a permanent basis. Under permanent law, government-supported prices would be about twice as much as current market prices. Crop producers likely wouldn't feel the full effect until the 2013 growing season. But dairy farmers harvest their commodity each and every day. And for producers who either sell it or smell it, the absence of government support is expected to have a more immediate impact. The Agriculture Department does have license to tweak some provisions of the 1949 law. But many industry officials and lawmakers caution that milk could soar to $6 per gallon or even $7 early next year if Congress fails to act. Agriculture industry leaders hope that any new farm legislation can be attached to any fiscal package the White House and Congress reach this month. But if no deal is reached prior to New Year's Day, major tax increases and spending cuts go into effect, and the fate of dairy programs and hundreds of other USDA initiatives become less certain.
Good news, the Mayans were wrong and the world did not end on December 21st. Winter, however, arrived ahead of schedule as a major blizzard roared across the Midwest. The storm dumped more than a foot of snow on parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan Thursday, forcing commercial airlines to cancel 1,000 flights. The combination of heavy snow and 50-mile-per-hour winds resulted in whiteout conditions for motorists. And the first major blizzard of winter is blamed for deaths in at least 5 states. On a more positive note, depending upon your persuasion, the blizzard all but guarantees a white Christmas for those in its path. The storm also brought much-needed moisture to a region weathering the worst drought in 5 decades. Prior to the storm's arrival, Market to Market visited a pair of Christmas tree farms. And as David Miller discovered, Christmas tree growers, like many other farmers and ranchers, endured significant losses this year due to drought.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
When the capital Christmas tree was selected from the White River National Forest in Colorado, The people who chose the 73-foot-tall Engelmann spruce were faced with the same trials and tribulations as this family at a local Christmas tree farm in Iowa. While they won't be using a chainsaw or need a crane to get their tree to the car, the concept is the same. But that is where the similarities end. For families making a selection at one of what USDA estimates are nearly 2,600 cut-your-own Christmas tree farms across the United States, the rewards may be greater.
There's nothing better than seeing a 4 or 5-year-old child going out and cutting a tree and bringing it up. It doesn't make any difference. The weather can be the crappiest weather imaginable. It can be cold, the wind blowing, snow on the ground. They're still smiling. Their parents may not be smiling so much, but the kids are happy. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Gary Harmon planted his first trees just north of Indianola, Iowa in 1977. 6 years later, when the crop was ready to harvest, Harmon and his wife Jane sold 8 trees. From those meager beginnings, Harmon's Walnut Ridge farm has grown into a 40,000 tree operation. Harmon believes his operation is no different than any other farm. His crop was impacted by the 2012 drought every bit as much as his neighbor's corn and soybeans.
We planted about 10,500 trees last spring. The seedlings that we planted this past spring, we had about 20% survival. And the bigger trees, we've lost bigger trees as well.
Harmon tried to save the saplings by spraying them with chemicals to hold in what little moisture was available. But 8,000 of the young trees withered away and died.
6 foot netted.
According to the University of Illinois Extension, America's first sales of fresh-cut Christmas trees took place in the mid-1800s. Before then, the Yuletide trek to cut down a tree for the living room took place in nearby forests. Today, nearly all live Christmas trees come from 12,000 farms located in all 50 states. In 2011, more than 30 million live Christmas trees were marketed at a retail value of over $1 billion.
Lots of folks think it's, plant a tree, wait 6-8 years, and it turns into money. There's just a tiny bit more to it than that. We plant them seedlings in the spring, herbicide, fertilizer, keep an eye on the bugs, mow. It's a full-time job for me. I'm basically the only one other than during planting season.
Harmon, a retired agricultural chemical salesman, gets help when he needs it from his wife, son Todd,
A couple branches off for you, and then
and a few friends.
Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Most Christmas tree farms feature some kind of value-added attraction. Early in December, on what is typically his busiest day of the year, Harmon has a neighbor bring a horse-drawn hay rack to his already popular cut-your-own operation.
I'm really glad the trees are looking good, though.
They're looking pretty. They're looking
drought and
good.
stuff.
Yeah.
The Salazar and Birch families from nearby West Des Moines, Iowa, came to Walnut Ridge to find a fresh-cut tree. While Salazar selected a pre-cut tree from one of Harmon's fellow growers in Virginia, the Birch families chose to harvest 2 out of the Walnut Ridge inventory.
I like the fresh cut. I think it lasts a lot longer. But I love the family camaraderie. I mean, it brings the family together. It's fun. You get to spend time together doing it. You can't get that from a hardware store.
35 miles north in Bondurant, Iowa, Vern Reddick supplements his 150 acres of row crops with several acres of Christmas trees.
We started the Christmas tree farm because we had rented the rough ground out as pasture ground. A couple of years, a friend of mine put his cattle in. He weighed them when he dropped them off and weighed them when he picked them up, and they lost weight. So we thought, we better try and do something better with that.
Along with his wife Sarah, the Reddigs have been growing Christmas trees for more than 40 years, and one of the perks they offer their customers is the ability to pre-select a tree in late fall.
They send a letter out and say that it's ready to come out, and you can come out and tag your tree. You just wander around out back and take a tag and say, this is the one we want, and then after the Thanksgiving weekend, you can come out and cut it down. Just the fun of coming out and cutting your own tree. You know, I mean, you can't get any fresher than going out and cutting it and taking it home with you. So.
While the Johnsons picked out their tree earlier this season, couples like Tim and Jane Sullivan are willing to wander across the farm's 12 acres seeking the perfect tree. The couple has been a repeat customer at this smaller 9,000 tree operation for more than 15 years.
The smell, the experience, just it's a lot more enjoyable when you bag your own and bring it home.
And it stays fresh for so long, too. Yep. Lots of times I almost feel bad taking it down in early January because it's still so fresh.
Reddig, who is secretary of the Iowa Christmas Tree Growers Association, has learned a lot since he first planted trees in the early 70s.
We planted Norway spruce, which was a big mistake. We didn't know better. They don't hold their needles very well. So we had a lot of angry customers and a lot of things to learn, and I'm still learning.
As the drought of 2012 intensified, he had the arduous task of watering the 1,500 saplings he planted in the spring. Reddig still lost almost all of them.
The drought has not forced us to raise prices. I believe in being reasonable on prices. I like everybody that comes here to feel like they got a good deal, and I'm not out to make a lot of money.
Reddig and Harmon say their work is worth the rewards of helping families continue what, in many cases, has been a tradition for decades. Both growers will replace trees that were lost to drought, but neither plans to raise its prices, ensuring that live Christmas trees will remain part of the holidays for years to come. On behalf of America's Christmas tree producers and everyone at Market to Market, best wishes for a happy and healthy holiday season.
Next, the Market to Market report.
China's cancellation of a major soybean purchase this week pressured grain markets as well. For the week, March wheat lost 22 cents, while the nearby corn contract moved 29 cents lower. The worst losses, however, were in the soybean pits, where the March contract lost a whopping 62 cents. Nearby meal followed suit, giving up more than $22 per ton. In the softs, cotton continued its recent upward trend, with the March contract gaining $1.09 per hundredweight. In the dairy market, January Class 3 milk lost a penny, while the deferred contract moved 15 cents higher. Over in the livestock sector, February cattle gained 80 cents, nearby feeders were off about a dime, and the February lean hog contract advanced by $1.50. In the financials, the euro gained 16 basis points against the dollar. Crude oil advanced by $1.40 per barrel. COMEX gold declined by nearly $37 per ounce, and the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index gained just over 1 point to settle at 638.50. Here now to lend us her insight on these and other trends is one of our regular market analysts, Sue Martin. Sue, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike.
It was a busy week for gold. We saw a $37 move downward. What's driving that?
Well, I think it's the talk of a better economy, or that the economy is starting to percolate a little bit and get better. And for a while, we thought maybe we were going to get something done before Christmas on the fiscal cliff talks. That didn't happen. But in the meantime, you've got talk of European economies and Chinese economy doing a little better. So at the moment, it's like feeling like gold doesn't really have as much of a concern, or let's put it this way, the investment into gold in fear of global inflation or, risk, that type of thing, it's just not a safe haven. So you're getting liquidation. Probably year-end liquidation is probably more than anything. I still think gold is good on the long term.
Okay. All right. So we'll see a little dip here and possibly a bounce back as we get through the new year.
Well, if you look at long-term charts or weekly charts, we are building a nice pennant, and we're almost to the end of that. And I think you'll break out to the top side of that.
All right. So you mentioned the fiscal cliff. What are your thoughts there? Do you think we're going to get anything passed by the new year?
I'd like to think so. If we do, I expect it at the very last minute. Otherwise, I think we're going to go over the fiscal cliff. There's so much political positioning here in this. They say there isn't, but there is. And I think that when we go over the fiscal cliff, how's it going to affect us? Some fear it makes our economy weaken and soften a little bit because of the higher taxation. Bottom line is, you go over the fiscal cliff, everybody's taxes are going up. It's not just a certain percentage of the American public, it's everybody. So we'll see. I hope we do get something settled before the end of the year, just to lay it to rest. That's all we seem to hear. But it wouldn't shock me if we went over the end of the year.
All right. Well, something to think about as we look towards the new year.
The uncertainty.
Yes. Let's talk the grain market. We saw a slide in wheat, corn, and beans this week. What was driving it in wheat? We've seen exports pick up a little bit. Where is wheat headed?
Well, I think wheat was being dragged backwards more so with beans and corn. And, before, when beans were rallying, they were buying beans, selling corn, buying beans, selling wheat. Then they unwound those spreads, and so that put a little bit of support under the wheat and corn, but it couldn't live long when corn started to cave in too. So I think the wheat market, we have to remember, yes, exports started to pick up. We're finally priced, or let's put it this way, other exporters have now, their stocks have gotten tight enough that prices in the world have now come up to meet our prices. We have good quality wheat to sell, so we're going to be probably the place of choice, origin of choice to do some exporting. But still, our crop, winter wheat, hard red winter wheat, went in the ground, poorest conditions that we've had on record, but we're in dormancy. And we didn't get, I don't think, enough snow out of this storm that tracked through to give us some good cover for like when we hit really cold temperatures. But in the meantime, we still have got a crop that's in dormancy. You don't really know what it's like until it comes out, if it catches rain. If you don't have rains in March and April, wheat's going to really skyrocket.
So it's just a wait and see, watch the weather.
I think it is a wait and see. I like the KC wheat. If it gets around 844, I think there's very good support around 844. Risk shouldn't be super large at that point. Maybe that offers us an opportunity.
Things to keep an eye out for.
Yes.
Let's talk soybeans. That was the big mover this week. We saw a 62-cent week-over-week decline.
Yeah.
Where are beans headed?
Well, I think the bean market longer term yet has potential to still go higher. I think it's going to take some time. We still have January to get through, those government reports, the supply-demand report number, the final production numbers in January 11th, and the quarterly stocks report at the end of January. So those usually are markets. The January markets are noted for sharply higher, sharply lower openings after the numbers come out. And so when I look at beans, I do think in January the yield is going to increase. But on the same token, demand's been awesome. But we also had cancellations by China, kind of at a time when you're in a December market, sort of took some wind out of our sails. And yet I had been telling our subscribers that I felt that we would see an inside range month in the month of December, because I did not think we could have enough oomph to take this market up through 1571, which was your November high. So having got over the $15 mark, and the March contract played about 3-4 days against the 38% retracement, January's didn't quite make it. That would have been 1528. It didn't get quite there. It got to 1508 and 3/4 or something like that. So the market started to see some liquidation. Got a little overbought, went in for a good, healthy correction. In the meantime, it also technically did do a parallel from the two highs that we have here in December down to the low of November. We hit that trend line on our lows on Thursday. So that may have been enough for this market to be able to now start another bounce. We had good short covering on Friday, and that was probably because of the long, nice holiday weekend. Traders are leaving, they're Christmasing, they're in the mood for the holidays. So, I think we've seen short covering. And then we'll see what happens here next week. There is a strong seasonal that beans do rally into Christmas and the day after Christmas. And we'll see. We're looking for a rally this next week.
Any price points you're willing to put out there as to where that rally might go?
I think that when we come back up, 1462 to 1469, kind of a tough little area. If we were to come back up and be around, what I want to see at the end of the month is that we're over the 1443, 46 area on a close. That would please me immensely. even if we were to drop down some more and come back and close over that, would be awfully good market action. And then we get into January and we see where our stocks are. I can't believe that exports and crush aren't going to be increased, although after the Chinese cancellations, that might slow us up on the export side of it, but the crush is awesome. And the exports of soybean meal is very, very good, 6%, maybe 77% of what the USDA has is targeted for. You look at soybean oil, they had a slight cancellation, 5,800 tons of soybean oil canceled, but still, all in all, extremely good exports on soybean oil. The crush is very strong, and it maybe we slow up on products, but we send beans, but we send products out the door.
All right. Let's talk corn. Corn, we saw another drop again this week. Are we through the support points that you keep track of? What's the hope for corn?
Well, corn has been a market that's really bothered me. I haven't had trust for it. Although I think it's possible we see higher highs next year, it's going to take some work. The corn market, to me, just looked like, one, our exports were down, way down from what the USDA has us targeted for. But maybe the corn isn't there to export. And we know that the river system hasn't been the best, so maybe that's part of the situation. And we also have to remember, we had the earliest harvest, I don't know if it's in history, but we had a very early harvest. One of them's a record. I mean, it may be a record. And that means there's a fair amount of corn that had to go into old crop supplies. So that corn may be already gone. And we just won't know until we get these quarterly stocks reports out at the end of January. Will it show that we had more feeding of corn than we thought through the fourth quarter or the first quarter of the new year? If we do have any of that, all of a sudden, and then not to mention harvested acres, but all of a sudden we're going to start to have this feel like, oh my goodness, we're tighter than we think. Will the USDA tighten our carry below 647? I doubt it. I think they have a line in the sand, and they aren't going to go under that too far. If they do, the market will just spring out of here like letting air out of a balloon, I guess. It'll just move. I think that when I look at the corn market, though, selling new crop, yes, it's sold off with this break. No surprise there. If the old crop's going to fall, it's going to drag the new crop a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if new crop corn, Deese, gets under $6. Can I sell it? No, I cannot bring myself to sell short that market yet. I think if anything, end users should use it to be buying and locking up needs. There's a huge gap on the charts, weekly and daily. At some point, that gap will be filled. Secondly, the RSIs. I looked at the RSIs on the December corn contract of next year. It is the lowest in 20 years. And then if you look at the weekly, it's the lowest since 1999, I think July 10th of 1999. That tells me to be careful and not get too bearish here.
All right. You mentioned using this opportunity for feeders out there to lock up their corn supply.
Exactly.
We've seen a nice bounce the past couple weeks in livestock. Is that feeding into this? Where do you see live cattle headed?
Well, I'm friendly both meats, cattle and hogs. I think, one, years ending in a 3 do tend to give you higher highs on cattle. Now, I think feeders can be a little schizophrenic in a year ending in a 3. I think, the last year or so, we've had feeder cattle leading the way. This year, coming up, I think it's going to be fats leading the way. We've got a problem out of Brazil. They have BSE. And on top of it, they've had issues before with hoof and mouth. So you go over and Japan was the first one to cut them off. And Japan's a pretty big buyer of their beef, although Russia joined in, and that's their largest customer. And I think that's interesting because you have Russia, who just probably 3 weeks ago banned imports of U.S. beef and pork and Canadian beef and pork. Well, now I think they're caught between a rock and a hard spot, and I think they'll have to relinquish a little bit. I think the U.S. producer is going to be in Flint. I think they are going to be have a blessing here, and this could have been a better timing for this to happen, unfortunately at the expense of Brazil. But I do think that when I look at China, Russia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and of course Japan, those are a lot of buyers and a lot of markets that are certainly going to be able to be coming to the U.S., and we do have a decent supply. Granted, we're going to get tight, but I think our cattle prices are going higher. And of course, meat supplies, beef supplies are, down nicely from what they were in October to the end of November. I think that's good. So I guess I see good things on the horizon for the cattle producer.
Excellent. Hogs are bucking the trend. What's your thought on hogs? You're bullish on the meat?
Yeah, I'm bullish on hogs. In fact, I almost like hogs the best, but I like fats too. I think that the hog market, they've gone through a tough year, and we may see some periods where they're going to get a chance to protect their feed costs in both soybean meal and in corn. But I think I'd be doing that because I think we're in for a volatile year. But when I look at the hog market, we have to realize hams in the inventory report, cold storage report, showed that the amount of hams is down sharply from it's down like 35% from October to the end of November. And of course, that's most likely gotten exported into Mexico. In the meantime, you look at pork in general, and we're down 11% from October through the end of November. I think that even though we're still up, 23% from a year ago, the product is disappearing. And as we go into this next year, I think, you remember Europe, they said in the last half, they're looking at a pork shortage. Well, I think we're going to have the supply to be able to give to them. We won't be abundant, but I certainly think we're going to have supplies to give to them. I think the livestock producer is looking at a good year ahead. And the hog market's been very counter-seasonal since August, and I believe that we're going to see higher highs yet even before the February expiration.
We've got about 20 seconds left. Sue, where do you think hog prices are going as we look forward?
Well, I look at the Junes, and I think your Junes will go to 104, 105, maybe higher. The Februaries, I think, will come back up over 92. They might make it to 95. We'll see. But I just don't think I want to be too bearish.
All right. Keep a positive attitude there towards the livestock and fulfill your feed needs in this price break.
Absolutely. I would be.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sue. Appreciate you being here. That wraps up this edition of Market to Market. But if you'd like more information from Sue on where these markets just may be headed, visit the Market Plus page at our website. You'll find expanded market analysis, audio podcasts, and streaming video of our program, as well as links to our Twitter feed and Facebook account, all free at the Market to Market website. Be sure to join us next week when we'll reflect on the year that was in rural America. 2012 in retrospect on the next Market to Market. Until then, thanks for watching. I'm Mike Pearson, wishing you the best this holiday season.
Market to Market is a production of Iowa Public Television, which is solely responsible for its content. Funding for Market to Market is provided by DuPont Pioneer, working with growers to match the right product to the right acre. Science with service, delivering success.